90+% of the time, I'm talking to the business owner. They're running the business, but they're also operating a truck. Those are areas where we can definitely help them.
That one makes a ton of sense.
If you're operating the business, you really should be laser focused on how do you make everyone's experience within this process as simple as possible.
Like, we used to use a whiteboard. I can't believe that this is still a thing.
I think this industry is just really prone to just doing things the way things have always been done.
What is one thing that most contractors get wrong about scaling revenue?
Ooh, I like this one.
Welcome back to Owned and Operated. I'm your host, John Wilson. Today, I'm talking with Richard Dunbar of FieldPulse. FieldPulse is a modern field service management software for contractors that are looking to bridge the gap between craftsmanship and business performance. It's going to be an awesome episode where we dive into case studies. We talk about how their software has helped contractors improve their business and a lot more. Thanks for tuning in. Richard, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Appreciate it, John. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited to dive in. I know that we've started using FieldPulse with cut and dry restoration.
Sure.
So that's our remediation business. Are you doing other remediation businesses, or are we like a pilot?
No, we do. So we kind of operate in the core three, the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, but we serve I'd say probably about 40 different subverticals. And actually, as cool as the core three are, I'm a homeowner, so those are pretty important ones, but it's really interesting to see like all the different stuff that's out there that people can do.
Oh yeah.
Like we have one company that uses us, for example, that does crime scene cleanup.
Oh yeah,
So,
sure. That's
yeah.
a pretty adjacent to remediation. We've looked at buying some businesses.
I never thought about it.
Yeah, we've looked at businesses that are like mold remediation and like trauma. And trauma is a type of cleanup. And every time we've looked at it, we're like, I don't think I can. Like, I can't get into this.
You imagine what the hiring has got to be like around that? Like, guy comes in to interview for the job, and you're like, well.
Yeah, we've talked to because it's industry adjacent. So we've talked to a lot of technicians, and they're like, yeah, like we used to do, we would get leads from the police, we would get leads from fire, and it was a lot of bodies.
Oof, it's crazy to think like what the KPIs are and so it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's funny but not funny,
Yeah, definitely traumatic.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. This will be a lot of fun. So FieldPulse, field service management platform that's helping contractors grow and scale their business. Anything
That's right.
I missed? Anything I missed in there?
No, you nailed it, man. You're ready to come work here. No, it's
Hell
literally
yeah.
that simple.
Yeah.
It's literally that simple. We work with contractors of
Yeah.
all shapes and sizes, folks who are really kind of looking to nail the basics and get the business into a place where it's good, sustainable, and like moving at a good clip. And then there's like, great, we've got the foundation built. Now we want to grow from here. And that's where we excel, because out of the box, you can kind of do all the things you need to do, like the core operational things that just you need to nail. And then there's just so many different ways from there that you can streamline and create those efficiencies that you need to get to that next level.
Are you still missing calls after hours or losing leads while your team sleeps? That's why we work with Avoca AI, Owned and Operated's exclusive call center partner. They answer 24/7, sound like a real human, and plug straight into your CRM to book jobs, send quotes, and even revive old leads. There are plenty of AI call centers out there, but we trust Avoca because we've seen the results firsthand. More booked jobs, less wasted spend, and no more missed revenue. See it in action at the link below. Start winning more jobs today with Avoca. So the core three, plumbing, HVAC, electric, and then, what are some other sub-verticals? I'm imagining roofing or concrete or, I don't know, landscaping?
So we do a little bit of landscaping. Where we're really strong is glass window installation. Kind of fell into that. They just sort of found us. We're really good there. We do a lot with gutters. So not exactly roofing, but a lot of times roofers, will kind of double up and do both things. So that's another one. Audio video installation services. There's a lot that we really fit really well into. We tend to skew much more heavily towards the residential side, not quite as much on the commercial side, although we do have a decent base of commercial business as well. But most of the stuff we bring in is typically those areas, primarily on the residential side, though.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And where you guys tend to come in and sort of help out is businesses are starting to invest in the professionalism, like they're professionalizing. Maybe that's just the right way to put
Yeah.
it. So maybe a smaller team, like 5 to 10 people, the owner's still probably wearing a lot of hats. Like I have a friend here locally, he has 5 plumbers, I think, and a call center. I don't know if it's call center manager, call center rep, or what the title is.
Mhm.
Then maybe a service manager. And he's like in that sort of professionalization mode. He's trying to pull himself out of day-to-day ops. He's trying to figure out what that looks like. And that's a lot of like where you guys are fitting in and helping people get organized.
Yeah, it's interesting you put it that way because a lot of the folks. So I love to go to the industry events that we do because it's a great opportunity to talk to these folks face to face. It's like during the normal workday, trying to call in on these guys and talk to them is like they don't want that, right? They're out doing the job. But these are times where they've got that dedicated time. You can actually talk to them, and I love to just hear like what's going on in the business. How are you operating? What's it like? And I'd say, John, probably 90+% of the time, I'm talking to the business owner. They're playing the role of like player coach. They're running the business, but they're also operating a truck. They're out there doing the HVAC work, doing the electrical work, doing the things that their guys are doing. They're in the field doing a lot of that, and you definitely see, especially as they start to get older, you definitely see those guys saying like, I don't want to do so much of this anymore. You can understand why. And they're getting to that point where like, all right, I need to get this business to a place where it can run without me. And I don't mean like completely without, but like where they're not having to be as dialed in on the everyday and they're able to kind of focus more on the general business aspects and less having to like operate a truck themselves.
Is that a lot of the sort of people that find their way to you? Like the owners like just stepping out of the truck, or they're still like selling or like engaged in field activities?
I think, yeah, most of them are still engaged. I think a lot of them have just
Yeah.
not quite gotten to that point where they can do the handoff, or they don't know what that point is. That's probably
Yeah.
the more likely case is they're like, yeah, maybe that's a little bit of fear, which I get. Like you've put everything you've got into this business and growing it. It's like when I hand this off, like, is this the right time to hand it off, or should I do this first? Those are areas where we can definitely help them. I think a lot of that anxiety just comes from uncertainty. It comes from the operational things that they've just grown accustomed to always doing, that now if they stop doing it, they wonder like, can Joe take this? Can he run with this? I don't know. And chances are Joe's probably going to do just fine. But
Yeah.
it's that, relinquishing control piece that I think a lot of folks struggle with.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. We had sort of 3 big decisions that we talked about prior that we felt like are the process of professionalizing a company like this. So I would love to double click on each of these. I'll just list them off and then we'll just go one by one. So uh, first one, transitioning, and I am curious how this works outside of the core 3. Like you would have way more exposure to this than I do, but
Mhm.
like transitioning to some version of a flat rate pricing and how important that is. Um, Getting rid of legacy tools and like starting to use forecasting and just better control. And then centralizing, scheduling, dispatching, and job data, which I think that one makes a ton of sense. I remember a probably a decade ago, like we used to use a whiteboard, like, which
Oh yeah.
probably a lot of people did a decade ago. But
Yep.
like I had, there was the call center rep, and then like 6 feet in front of her was a whiteboard, and we, right here's the customer name, job number, and yeah, kind of funny. So like being able to put all that in one thing, or the sort of the big 3 steps, which yeah makes sense to me. So on the moving to flat rate pricing, like how are you guys seeing that manifest inside your customers?
Yeah, when I think about this, I kind of lump this into a general bucket of like, if you're operating the business, you really should be laser focused on how do you make everyone's experience within this process as simple as possible. So in this case, if we think
Yeah.
flat rate pricing, you think, okay, this is going to make it easier for my sales guys, number one, because one price to do the job is just a lot easier to digest. But then also from the homeowner standpoint, and that's also one of the things I think is so cool about the type of work that we do, is that so many of us are homeowners, and so you can put yourself in the end users, because the
Yeah.
homeowner really is the end user. They're the consumer of that experience. You can put yourself in their shoes and say, all right, I've had to have my I live in Florida. You got to get your AC service. The last thing you want is for that thing to go out in July, because you're gonna have a real tough time. So you put
Hmm.
yourself in those shoes and you say, well, you probably had a good experience. You probably had a bad experience. So what does that look like? So to more directly answer your question, I think that contractors have just gotten very used to being at the mercy of outside factors that kind of govern their profitability. But there's
Yeah.
technical solutions that can solve for this stuff. Things like being able to see your costs over time, and then having real-time access to pricing and availability around like materials and stuff like that. That allows you, if you want to make that change over to a flat rate model or something, it just gives you the peace of mind to say, all right, if we do make this shift, we're not leaving money on the table, and
Hmm.
we're able to confidently simplify this for our salespeople, for our technicians, and I'd argue most importantly for the homeowner. I would love it if they could just say, hey, you know what? We do this kind of work all the time. It typically costs this much, and maybe there's a good, better, best option, and I can just pick the one I want. That's so easy for me, and I feel really good as the homeowner, being able to have play a part in that decision, but also know that it's going to solve the exact problem that I called you out here to fix.
Yeah. Something that I think is interesting is flat rate to me was such a foregone conclusion. Uh, but so we host these workshops. We host 2 a year, and I think we're on our fourth or fifth one. And each
Hmm.
time it's like 30 contractors, and it's called Breaking Five. So the idea is like most people are going to be under 5 million because like they're here to learn how to break 5 million. It is a lot of fun. But what's always fascinating is like 40% of the group, maybe even more, is not on a version of flat rate. Like they're doing like time and material, or they're doing something. And that it blows me away every time, because I was like, I thought this was like a decade ago solution. I can't believe that this is still a thing that is showing up in the industry. What do you think the gap is? It's just hard to come up with, or it's expensive, or like why do you think people don't just like go on it day one? Because I don't even see how that's possible, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I'd have to kind of lean on the conversations I've had with folks at these events, and I think a lot of it is, I think this industry is just really prone to just doing things the way things have always been done. That there's a very strong like legacy aspect to this line of work. Like, my grandfather did this and he did it this way, so I do it this way. My father did it that way, so I do it this. I think a lot of that
Yeah.
just persists. And I also think, going back to what you were saying before, I think a lot of these guys are just, they're so deep in the weeds of doing the work that they're not taking the time to step back and say, all right, well, what things can I change about this business to make it better? The kind of classic mentality is, well, I'll grow the business by getting more leads, and I'll service more leads,
Yeah.
and I will just, as I grow and build a reputation and get bigger, I'll just do more. And yeah, that's part of it. That's great, but there's so many other aspects of that eventually you're going to hit a wall where your processes, your systems, your legacy stuff, or if we're sticking with that motif, your kind of legacy processes, they're not going to work at the scale that you need them to. So
Yeah.
I think that's my take on it, but I'd love to hear, like, in those sessions when you're talking to those guys, like what do they say when you ask them? Do they have an answer?
A lot of people just don't know how to get a price book,
Mhm.
which, to be honest, is kind of complicated.
Yeah.
uh, it's sort of for something that's so straightforward, and so like you literally can't do a job without knowing how you're going to price it.
Right.
It's such a fundamental core part of our business. It's like trying to launch a plumbing company and not having a truck. Like you can't, you could walk everywhere,
You just
but
carry all the
like,
pipes.
yeah, but like it doesn't, you can't really do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it'd be like a day one thing. But yeah, it's hard to get a hold of. Like, depending on the platform that people are using, it's either included or it's not, or it's an add-on or it's not. I don't know. Like, is it included inside FieldPulse, or like, how does that work? How does the actual Pricebook integration work?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few different ways that you can do Pricebook with us, which is really cool. So one area where my team focuses specifically is building out relationships with the different suppliers and distributors to get real time data to plug into the Pricebook, so that as you're building it, you're actually building it based off of availability, um, inventory count,
Yeah.
and price in real time. And so that's actually been a massively popular feature with our users, because
Yeah.
prior to that, they would just, pull up at the supply shop and get a post-it note, slap it on the counter and say, "Here, I need this stuff." I'm like, "Well, I got half of that stuff. The other half, you're gonna have to go to the other branch to get it." Oh, that's not good. Um, so and to your point about the importance of it, um, you know, everybody needs it. Everybody, like you, I don't see how, I'm like you, I don't see how you can do any of this stuff without having that.
Yeah. I
When
mean, you
I
have to
first
price the
came,
job. Yeah.
100%. When I first got into this industry, um, I was sitting down, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and the term price book kept coming. I was like, "Well, what's a price book, guys? Explain it to me." Explain it to me, and I'm like, why does that have to be a thing? Isn't that just like a foregone conclusion that you would like, this must,
Hmm.
it must exist, therefore I don't think to ask about it, type of situation. They're like, no, you'd be surprised how many people don't have anything like this, and just sort of like operate off of just what's up here. And again, like that legacy experience, legacy knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of wild. Are outside of plumbing, HVAC, electric, I'm sure it's like more common there, but other industries, is this as prevalent, or how's that look?
Yeah, I would say most of our users. I don't have the hard data. I'm kind of going anecdotal here, but I
Yep.
talk to our CS team quite a bit, because I love to hear, what it is that they're hearing directly from the customers. But um, I would say it's few and far between where a customer of ours is not using our price book feature functionality in some capacity. You have some who are
Yeah.
power users who may have many price books with many different line items built into them, and there's a lot of complexity around it. I think you see that a lot more, um, maybe on the electrical side than you do elsewhere. HVAC tends to be pretty standardized, more like package driven from what I've seen. Um, but I would say, gosh, it's probably, north of 80% of customers are using our pricebook functionality in some capacity on a daily basis.
Next up was like ditching legacy tools and getting real time visibility. I think the bigger we've grown, I know this has been, it's one of those things where like now that you live in this reality, it's hard to envision it any other way. Like if we didn't have hour by hour or minute by minute sales, like how would we know what was going on? And like
Yeah.
it's kind of a new, it's kind of a new problem. Or like if we didn't GPS the truck, all those different things, like real time visibility is so powerful, but it is funny how it's still pretty new.
Yeah. What's so cool about this is, when you think about some of these businesses that come to us, and maybe we're their first FSM, or maybe they're, switching from another platform. Um, some of these guys, I was talking to a guy up in New England a couple months ago, and it was a really interesting conversation. And um, older gentleman, and I was kind of asking him like, "Oh, how long you been with the business?" He's like, "Oh, it's my grandfather's business." And I'm like, Wow. So how old's the business?" He's like, "Oh, it was started in the 1800s."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
"Oh my God." He's been doing their family business. The family plumbing business has been around in the kind of Massachusetts area, for over 100 years. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, how much data? How much data
Oh,
is there?
yeah.
Now, granted, there's only so far back you can go, right? Because paper's paper. But um, it got me thinking, like, okay, even if a business has been around for a couple of years, how much data have they accumulated that can then, if it's unpacked, and
Yep.
they look at it right and know what they're looking for, or bring in somebody to do it for them, how much can that tell them about the trajectory of their business, what's working, what's not working? They'll certainly find out new things, but how many of their assumptions or sort of gut feelings that they have because they're really good at their work are going to be confirmed or affirmed by what that data tells them? And then think what that unlocks for them, and how they can then decide how they want to grow the business and what they want to do with it. I think, like, all, all the funnel metrics, all of the, you know, time it takes to get jobs done, how their cost for their materials has changed over time. Maybe they bought from like different suppliers, and different suppliers have been more or less prone to price fluctuations. Like there's so many things that are just there that exist that either they're not tracking or they just don't have the appropriate analytics to sit on top of it to sort of tell that story or paint that picture for them that says this is what you ought to be doing. Um, that to me is like one of the big opportunities where technology, and especially with AI now being able to do a lot of that work for you by just telling it. I think that's one of the biggest unlocks that this industry has facing it now. Because like, let's face it, so many other businesses are looking at using AI as an example as like a threat to, you know, a threat to the industry. Like AI isn't going to fix your pipes. Like you still need the trades. I
Hmm.
think these guys are probably one of the most protected industries in our world right now. So for them, it's all upside. Like, why not leverage that to take that data, parse it out, and give you really good insight into the business?
It's no secret that my office here in Nashville is almost completely empty. So how do I support my team as well as have great growth metrics? Well, the answer is international contractors with Quick Staffers. So Quick Staffers is a premier staffing agency which will place top-tier talent in your business, built by the trades for the trades. So if you need a CSR, they'll be placing a CSR that is highly trained in your business that knows Service Titan and can book calls effectively day one, call one. Affordable, reliable, and trained in all of the industry best practices, Quick Staffers can help you cut that overhead, boost conversions, and scale your business fast. So don't waste another lead. Visit quickstaffers.com and transform your business today.
I'm remembering we bought this business back in 2018, and data in 2018 was just a lot harder. Like
Mhm.
it was, dispatch boards were on Excel. There were other software companies that had been around, but I think it was still pretty early. I don't remember when like mass adoption started happening.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, so anyways, we bought this plumbing company in 2018, and they were using Excel as like their dispatch board. And we had like that experience of like onboarding and figuring out their schedule and migrating it into ours and just all the nuance that came with that. And I compare that to a business I bought in 2022 that was on a software, and it was, I mean, much easier. You could actually figure things out. You could understand what was going on. And even just the way they led the teams was so comically different, where the one on paper in Excel was checking, like, the service manager's main job was to review the paperwork orders the next day. And like, hey, did we do a good job or a bad job? Like, we have no idea. There's no real time visibility.
Right.
And versus like, okay, yeah, now we have data. We know how many times we visited this house. We have notes. We just have more, and the customer's more valuable because we can contact them, like, which I think is probably the most important piece of all.
Every time I hear someone say that, and we use Google Sheets and Excel, like I think every business does too, despite the technology we have. I always think of that meme where the guy is like holding up the entire planet, and it's like the entire economy of the world, and the guy's name is Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
so many businesses like that. That is kind of how things operate and run. And look, like it's a great tool to get you to a point, right? If that's kind of the
yeah.
theme is like certain tools will get you so far, and there comes a point where you need kind of that next piece to level up. I'm actually curious, John, what like how how do you, with your portfolio of companies, how do you guys approach data? Like, do you have a data person or a data team, or is that like a function that rolls into someone else's um, job responsibilities?
Most of the company's data driven, so data falls into sort of everyone's job. It depends on like whose section.
Hmm.
Most of the way that we use data is inside like either marketing or the initial contact to set an appointment. So, and there's like a lot to unpack there. So,
Hmm.
age of equipment, serial numbers, like that determines marketing, but it also determines what tech goes out to that job. And how we get all that information is like photos and I don't know. Um, our customer list is about 100,000, maybe 110 or something. So a lot going on there as far as like rehashing, contacting. When was the last time we were there? What was the last trade we were there for? What was our last ticket? How do we, continue that relationship? So I'd say most of it happens in between marketing and initial appointments. So like call center. There's a lot of performance stuff that happens later, but that's not really data. That's more like, I mean, it is, but most of our data happens upfront, marketing and call center.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I find it's always interesting to just kind of hear how folks are taking the data they have and where it makes sense to apply it to the business, kind of what insights they get from that. So yeah, I appreciate you answering that.
All right, next big decision that really like helps drive professionalization is we have here on my notes like centralizing, scheduling, dispatching, and job data, but I really feel like it's probably more like centralizing everything, like because there's a lot more than just that. Even like pricebook is such a great example. Like how easy is the pricebook compared to where I'm putting together the invoice, and can I just like put that together? Where's my point of sale, and can I just swipe there? So I feel like all of that together, like the platform that the business runs on is might even be a better way to say it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like when I was thinking about this, that's where my head went is, even if you pull on one of the threads, it always comes back to all these things roll up into,
yes,
just general operational efficiency and centralizing as much as you can. I think going back to what I was saying before, I think it's the same type of thing, which is you really want to create as much efficiency within the business for the people who are doing the business as possible, i.e. the technicians. So the guys and gals that are going out and doing the work, it should be, in my opinion, top priority for any operator to make it as easy as possible for those folks to come to work every day, to go out and do the work that they're there to do, and to be able to go home at the end of the day and feel really good about the work they did. And I think, and I've seen this with our customers too, the ones who nail that and have that technician or let's just say employee experience, because it's not just the techs, but have that employee experience functioning as I described. Those are the happiest ones. Those are the ones who are growing the most. Those are the ones that feel confident about the trajectory that their business is on. And it's no coincidence at all that everyone underneath them, everyone who's doing all that work, feels very confident in what they're doing as well. And so it's a credit to those operators, whether they're using, FieldPulse or another platform, that they've had the wherewithal and have taken the time and made the investment to do that, but have prioritized that employee, that technician experience over and above everything else, knowing that that's going to be the root of the success for their long-term growth.
Yeah, I keep going back to just like my memory of the industry. But I think something that's been fascinating over my career, I've said this a lot on this show, but the average size of a contractor has risen so much. And I think it's probably this point of like, how can I centralize as much as humanly possible into one platform that runs it all? I just remember like a decade ago, the average contractor was like $1 million. And in the core three, and now the average is probably like 5 to 8, or even these days, it seems like people are considered small under $10 million, which like, that's kind of ridiculous. If we look at the history of the industry, that like a $10 million is small, because $10 million used to be the biggest in town by like multiples just a couple short years ago. So yeah, I think this whole like centralizing everything and removing friction from the different sections of the business is probably the big thing that propelled the industry forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And it's important to look at those things too, in terms of like that scale versus like some sort of benchmark or index. Like even if you just look at inflation, it's outpacing even that, the growth there, which I think is pretty amazing. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and one of my favorite questions to ask anybody is, how many trucks do you run? Just because it's not the answer I care so much about, it's how they answer it that is really telling. And this one particular event, this one was garage doors or overhead doors, which is actually just another subvertical we're really strong in. And I asked them that question, and it was amazing how many people would say, "Oh, I only run 12 trucks. I only run 12 trucks." I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of trucks.
Yeah.
Where you talking to, maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's HVAC. I'll pick on them for a minute, and you'll talk to them and say, "How many trucks you running?" "Oh, I'm running two," and that feels like a lot, and it's obviously they're like different stages in these businesses, but
Yeah.
just the mentality of like, oh yeah, 12's not that much, to your point about kind of where things have kind of gone. um that's a lot.
It's kind of,
That's a
yeah, it
lot of
is. It's
that's
kind
a
of
lot of overhead.
ridiculous. I mean, most of my career was under 12 trucks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, I just think like my wife and I have two cars. I can imagine having three. Like
Yeah.
what would like two is enough. I don't need any
Yeah.
more. But yeah, to do that and be like, yeah, we're really small. We're only running 12 trucks. Jeez. Um, but yeah, I definitely think like, the industry is kind of growing, adapting. I think too, you mentioned this earlier too. I think standardization is important. I think being able to have
Mhm.
aspects of the business that you can standardize that don't really compromise the end user experience, just make things really simple for everybody. Again, like technicians just want to do the work, so make it easy for them. And similar for the homeowner. If you come to do like a recurring service for me, just make it the same experience every time. Then I know exactly what to expect. We have a cleaning company we hire to help around the house. They come every 2 weeks. Come the same day every time, same
Mhm.
time every time. Usually the same two people every time, and they do the same cleaning every time.
Yeah.
They charge me the same amount every time. They bill me at the same time every time, and I love it. It's so predictable and so simple, and it's just great. It's easy for me. It's easy for my wife. It's great from like budget management standpoint. So those types of aspects of standardization and just operational efficiency, like those trickle all the way down to the end user, and you may not see it or hear it, but like as the homeowner, they're feeling it. They're not vocalizing it necessarily, but they're definitely feeling it and it's appreciated.
As you guys are helping these businesses professionalize, I mean, you're working directly probably with the owner, I'd say the most.
Typically the owner or like they'll have like a designated person. A lot of the folks we talk to, especially if they're a little bit on the older side, they'll have like a son or a daughter who's grown up with technology, and they're like, look, they know what we need to do, but they're really good with technology. Can you just work with them, please? Which is great because they're all this stuff is native to them. They've had a device in their hands since they were babies. Well, maybe not babies, but yeah.
All right, so you're mostly so the owners are sort of carrying through the integration of the platform, like the onboarding and the success of it, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, typically. So one of the first things that we do is we sit down with them, and before we even try to do any of the actual work, we'll sit down with them and we just want them to educate us on their business. That is arguably the most valuable thing that any of our customers can do for
Mhm.
themselves, not just for us, is help us understand your business. Um, what are you doing today? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What's important to you? And it's not, you know, this isn't like a sales thing. This is I want to help you and I want to get this platform configured for you in the best way to be conducive to growth. In order to do that,
Yeah.
I need you to, open the kimono a little bit here, have some humility and kind of tell us what's good and what's bad so that we can apply the prescription to kind of fix and solve those things for you. Um, and so yeah, we'll work with them. And look, the owner, yeah, in most cases, if the owner's dialed in, they're going to know what most of this stuff is. And a lot of times, in my experience, if you ask them, they'll just tell you. They're very transparent about like, we're really good at this, but John, we're really terrible at this. I need your help
Mhm.
here. Can you please fix this for me? And say, sure, we can do that. Might have to dig a little bit, but yeah, it's fixable.
Okay, so you've seen into a lot more businesses than I have. I want to talk a little bit about some lessons learned. So I know from my personal experience, I'm sure you've got more context here, but you can't scale on manual systems. Any additional flair to add?
Yeah, I think for the business owner, it's really important to have a vision and a clear understanding. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, but a clear understanding of where the business is at today
Yeah.
before they're even going to be able to build out the kind of efficiencies they want to kind of get to scale. Um, and I mean, you could do probably a whole series of episodes on this by itself, but like, knowing your KPIs how much does new business cost you? How much do you make from the types of business you do? But then have a North Star for the business that's distant but achievable. What is it you want to be? Like, let's say you're operating, an HVAC company in the Akron area. Like, okay, I imagine you don't just want to be another HVAC company in the Akron area. So what do you want to be? What is that goal? And then be honest about that and communicate that out to your team and let everyone buy into that vision, and then work backwards from there. What are you trying to do, and how do you get there? And it becomes a lot simpler when you focus on, when you know what the end result is, but you focus on what you can do today to get there.
Another sort of like quick hit, and I'm looking for additional context. Efficiency is good, but clarity is better. I think this is back into that real-time visibility.
Yeah, it is. And I think, when you get into a technical solution that's kind of helping you get that real-time visibility and everything, I think as you go through that, you really need to approach that whole process with a bit of honesty and humility.
Yeah.
And I kind of mentioned this before too, but I'll double down on it. The what's working, but then also, what are your must-haves? When we were working with the cut and dry team, we had that conversation with them. We said, hey guys, what is the thing that you must have? And there were kind of 3 standouts, at least for me, but there was, they had their list, which was great, but they wanted very clear visibility into data from day one. So you said it yourself, your businesses are data driven. They're reflecting that, which is great, because that's a great reflection, on you as the owner. They wanted to make work as simple for their technicians as possible and let them focus on the thing that they're best at, which is servicing your customers. That's great. That tells our onboarding and our implementations team, cool, we need to make sure when we build out the workflows and all the automations and the workflows, that we're doing so in such a way that it satisfies this specific requirement. And then the third one that really stood out for me from their punch list was that they wanted, as early as possible, they wanted to have as much stuff standardized as they could. And that was super helpful for our team too, because when we know that, it's so much easier to build that stuff at the beginning than it is when you're 6, 7, 8 months in or a year in, and it's like, oh gosh, I wish I had standardized this. Like, it's a little harder to go back sometimes.
This next one, I think is in the age of AI and just like, such sort of rapid tech deployment in the trades. This one might be tough for people to stomach. So, I'll go slow. But the real unlocking growth isn't tools or tech or technology. It's removing friction. So what
100%.
Additional context you have there?
Yeah, I love that. I came, prior to coming and joining FieldPulse, I came from the payment processing space, and we worked with a lot of different businesses and a lot of different industries to help them streamline how they incorporate payment acceptance into their flow. And one of my favorite analogies had to do with what you just said. And I said, think for a minute, what is the simplest, maybe we can do it right now for fun. What is the simplest buying experience in your day-to-day? What do you think that is?
The simplest buying experience, like going to a store, probably. Like you just go there, because now that's probably just me. Most people's is probably like Amazon or something, but like
Bingo.
I can never find my credit cards. So Amazon is not easy for me.
Okay. Well, you teed this up perfectly for me, so thanks. But so that's the example I would use. I say, guys, think about Amazon. All right, you need something, Amazon has it. All right, I got my phone right here. I pull it up. Okay, I go on Amazon. My credit card is saved, which is a cool feature. You might want to check that out.
Yeah, I need to.
I go find the item, and they have this thing called swipe to buy.
Okay.
I swipe, and it pulls up real quick. It's like, hey, is this the right address? Just to make sure, because obviously, if you get that wrong, the whole thing's shot. And you say yes, it's like, okay, cool, done.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that in.
I wonder
Zoom
how
calls
many.
before.
I wonder how many billions of dollars that added. Like that simple. It's a one click buy, or is that what they call that? The one click buy, but it's crazy.
It's basically the same thing. It's like, hey, I know who you are. I know where you live, right? It sounds creepy, but that's their business.
Yeah.
And I have your payment information.
Yeah.
I also have an unlimited warehouse of items that you need or want. Why make it hard for you to get those things?
Yeah.
And to your point about friction, yeah, I mean, in your guys' line of work, it's not that simple. But if you think about it from that standpoint, when Amazon started out, they didn't have that. Like you wanted to buy a book. Well, how did you do it? Well, you went to the
Yeah.
store and you hoped they had it, or maybe you called ahead. Either way, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But at the time, that's just how things were done. If you had said to someone in the mid late 90s, like, hey, in I don't know, 10 years, you'll be able to buy any book in the world from anywhere in the world in about 10 seconds. And by the way, you can have it delivered to your doorstep maybe by the end of the day. Said, nah, that ain't gonna
Yeah.
happen.
That's
Well,
crazy.
it did.
Yeah.
It did. And it really just took them looking at the business from that lens of saying, where are our friction points and how do I eliminate them? And that's it. Like that's the trick. So that to me, that's always been the North Star is how do I create the one click or swipe to buy experience in whatever line of work that I'm in, whatever industry I'm trying to serve.
I think it's easy to get caught up in the tech, especially with like more and more AI tools coming out that like have lofty promises.
Mhm.
And I think at the end of the day, it's like fundamentals. Are we picking up the phone? Are we booking the call? Are we pricing accurately? Are we completing the work well? Do we have a follow-up system to make them a return customer? And I think anything else is it's just energy that could be just
Yeah.
better spent on just improving the core.
Yeah. I think once you nail the core, you're effectively operating on the margin at that point. So
Yeah.
to your point, it's like, okay, I've got the fundamentals so well ironed out, and I'm so confident my business is doing really great with the core stuff. What are those kind of edge things that I can now just kind of tweak and refine? And that's that margin that you're operating on. And you may you may squeeze out a few more basis points or a couple percentage
Mhm.
points here and there in terms of profitability. But if you do that enough times and you're good at it, those individual percentage points, those add up and those do make a difference. And then that's all multiplicative. Every customer you add is benefiting from that same percentage gain operating on the margin. And I think when more business owners and operators are kind of thinking about things that way, like what is the marginal aspect of me making this change, I think it just unlocks a lot of opportunities for them and maybe a different perspective in how they approach the business.
One of the tools I've personally seen make a huge difference for service business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Because when you miss a call, you're not just missing a conversation, you're losing business. Quo is the modern business phone solution powered by AI that helps you stay responsive and connected. It logs calls, creates summaries, and automates next steps. From drag and drop setup to AI-powered call tags, every detail is designed to make your phone system smarter, customers happier, and your team more in sync. It's one of those tools that makes you wonder why you didn't already switch. 90,000 businesses already have. Start your 7-day free trial at the link below and get 20% off your first 6 months just for being a part of the owned and operated crew. Whoa. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, I've got a closing question for you here.
Okay.
What is one thing that most contractors get wrong about scaling revenue?
Ooh, I like this one. So I'm going to lean a little bit on my payments background here, but
Yeah.
I've run into this a lot. Um, Make it really, really easy for the customer to pay.
Yeah.
That's the simplest thing. I think if you have a strong team and you have strong processes built
Yeah.
around getting paid, that solves and unlocks so many things. I've seen, kind of sticking with the general theme here, I've seen a lot of businesses struggle with growth because of
Yeah.
cash flow, not
Yes.
because of the amount of jobs they have. It's
Yeah.
it's getting paid and then deploying that cash into the right areas to grow the business. But there's no cash to deploy if they're not getting paid. And you'd be amazed, well, maybe not. You'd be amazed how many of these people I talk to, and I'm like, well, how do you typically get paid? Oh, we send an invoice.
Yeah.
Okay, invoice has a payment link in it, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
no. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Make it easy to pay. Most customers want to pay and be done. Quick story, we had our entire landscaping around our house replaced earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole process was just amazing. The lady who ran it did the whole thing, just all of it was just great. I tried to pay her for 3 months. Like I was texting her, I was calling her, I was like, hey, I want to pay you, I want to pay, send me a link, give me your vet, something, let me pay you. And she's like, oh yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. And it just lingered and lingered. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
if you can do that and run your business, like God bless you, like more power to you. But I wanted to pay her and I couldn't. So make it easy. Take the cash flow variable out of the equation and just make that piece super simple for everybody.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, that aligns with just my own lived experience of early on in our growth journey. Most of the decisions that we made were around this concept. I don't think we thought of it that succinctly, but it was, I mean, that's flat rate. Like, hey, do you offer flat rate or not? Well, one of the main reasons is you can walk out with a check that day. Like, that's important. Are you taking credit cards? Are you using technology to have a point of sale? Are you offering financing? Like all those different, it's really a lot of decisions, but yeah, I agree with you. That was probably like a first 12 months of ownership decision for me. And I think it really helped propel us forward because that was now out of the equation.
Yeah. It was probably one of those things where once you guys learned how to do it,
you don't really have to go
process
back
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
You could do it at any of your businesses, right?
Yeah. It's a platform. Like this is just how it works. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's great. Love to hear that.
Well, this was a ton of fun. I loved having you on today. If people want to reach out, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to get to. Ricky at FieldPulse, RICKY at fieldpulse.com. Super easy to reach. I welcome anyone to reach out if they have questions. They want to know more about who we are or what we do, or just want to have a chat about anything we talked about here. I'm more than happy to chat, and then also very easy to find on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today. And for the listeners, make sure you give us a 5-star review wherever it is that you listen to shows.
Thanks, John.